Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the 706 podcast. I believe we're at episode number 26. It was a major celebration, important number. And I'm here with my co-hosts, and why don't they all introduce themselves?
My name's Anthony.
Hi, I'm Kirk.
Hi guys, I'm Connor. Good to be back.
Yep. Been about a month since we did this, but
Episode 26.
Episode 26 hype. I know I've been getting the tweets all day. So we're doing today is a movie called Night Moves that I obviously picked. It's a 2013, 2014, depending on which country it was released in. Drama, I guess. Starring Jesse Eisenberg.
Thriller, it's a real thriller.
Drama thriller in the cachet sense, perhaps. It's a bit of a slow burn, you might say. But it's a drama thriller, what have you. Jesse Eisenberg, Dakota Fanning, Peter Sarsgaard. It's about three sort of, as IMDb tells us, three radical environmentalists who take it upon themselves to blow up a dam. So, yes, the energy in the room is a little off today. Lots of dropping. People kept dropping things the entire movie, which was interesting. And 10 minutes in, I heard Kirk sighing on the couch, so that's always great. So why don't we start with Kirk? Give it to me. Lay in, and
Kirk chose this movie, and we should.
Wait, I think it was Anthony who chose it.
Oh, Anthony chose it.
No, I did choose it.
Oh, Kirk
I nominated
chose it
Sucker
from
Punch.
last
And
time.
I blame you folks for making me choose it, because you offered Sucker Punch, and I don't know what you did, but it must have been.
Jinnah, it was called.
What?
It was Jinnah.
Oh,
I
yeah,
haven't
it
seen
was, I didn't know. But,
all right, I want to go Kirk, Anthony, Connor. This is like the
Why
least.
that order?
Because I don't know, because Kirk's good. Well, you're the same. You're the same person.
This is like the cereal order effect you want.
Connor's the chaser. He's the orange juice after the vodka. So let's go.
Typically, the more positive, I think.
I mean, Anthony's might be more cutting. I really don't know. I'm very nervous, but I said Kirk, so let's do Kirk.
Yeah. So, sometimes it's helpful to think of movies as
God.
like watching a movie is almost, it's like sustaining. It can be, similar to food in a way. It can be tart. It can be indulgent. It can be can sit in your stomach. It can crawl up your esophagus. So I guess what I'm saying is that some movies, they can, it's almost like you're being provided with something to chew on, as they say, for the length of the movie. And other movies, it feels like this one, it feels like you put half a dozen saltines in a blender, add some tepid water, and then feed it to you through a garden hose. So basically what I'm saying is that this movie had very little to offer. Who's the director?
It's Kelly Reichardt.
Who is? I don't know her. Did she make anything else?
Yeah, she had Meats Cut Off.
Certain women last year. Nothing big.
She's been a screenwriter for
They're
years.
all sort of minimal dramas.
Yeah. Well, minimal, I can read minimal to mean like self-serious in that sense, because I feel like this movie really relied on its use of kind of silence and kind of building atmosphere through very prolonged shots. There wasn't much dialogue. It's a very kind of, it's a somber movie, right? We're meant to look inward at our relationship to nature, and we're meant to criticize and interrogate ourselves for what seems like this kind of growing dependence on the more corrupting aspects of society, like social media or whatever. But I think this movie, really the first third or like the first half was kind of interesting, but then after a certain point I just stopped giving it the benefit of the doubt, and I started to realize that it didn't have anything really to say, and I didn't find anything really blew me away about this movie.
What was the point for you? Is it just after
The point of the movie is what?
No, well, not the point. What point in the movie did you start to kind of?
I think it was probably when okay, so they blow up this dam, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's 3 main characters, and Dakota Fanning starts getting like emotional. I'm like, okay, great, yeah, it's the it's the girl has a conscience, and we need to shut her up, and it's like, oh, it's so fucking lazy, in my opinion. This movie was just lazy, and I think the creators had good intentions, but I don't know what to take away from the movie. I don't know what to take away from, it's this idea that he's coming to terms with what he did, but how do you blow up a dam and not expect anybody to die? Like, what the fuck are you thinking? It's a reservoir. It's going to flood the lowlands. I don't understand why they would think nobody would die, and then they get these, then they're transformed, they're hardened through the process, and we're supposed to. I mean, there's no groundwork upon which to develop empathy for Jesse Eisenberg's character. He's like the most Jesse Eisenberg character there's ever been.
He's such a different character. We just did The Social Network. I think this guy's like completely different. It's
of
a
course,
completely different performance.
It's very easy to see the differences. Yes, he's not effused. He's not like
Jesse Eisenberg just means guy I don't like to you.
No, can I explain my point?
Sorry, I'm sorry. I'm getting defensive. Go on.
No, you're just interjecting. Can I? So basically, my point is, this is like a nose talent Casey Affleck in Manchester by the Sea performance. It's very introspective. It's a very mellow, subdued, demure performance where he's quiet, he's reserved. We're not supposed to. We don't know what to make of him. We don't know about his past. We don't know about his future, and we're just meant to kind of, I guess, project onto him. But it feels to me like a very kind of, I don't know, an indulgence to think that we're meant to relate, we're meant to empathize with this Jesse Eisenberg character, because there's nothing there. He doesn't even seem human. I mean, he really, whether he has like some sort of personality disorder in the movie, I mean, I would say he might, because he's, we don't even see really, besides from very muted allusions to like his caring for the environment, and like, yeah, he works at a co-op, but you don't see much else. So I don't know. I thought I just couldn't give a shit. And then one more point. I know I'm talking a lot, but before I forget, that kind of spoiler alert, but the murder scene at the end was the most shoddy fucking scene I've ever seen. Like, he opens the sauna, and then from nowhere, like, Dakota Fanning's face pops up, and then he throws her down. Like, did anybody else notice how that scene kind of unfolded really kind of strangely? I don't know. Maybe it was meant to be awkward, but it was not my thing.
All right, Anthony, I've been knee in the groin. I'm down. Finish me off. Pull out the gun. Put it in my mouth.
Connor's there as, the Jesus in the corner, the Redeemer.
I don't think he likes it either, but it won't be as...
So, a taut, minimalistic thriller in the Robert Bresson vein is what I imagine the Rotten Tomatoes score probably says. But I hated this movie.
Okay.
I thought it was truly awful. I thought it was a 1 star on the Ebert scale.
Oh my god, guys. This is
I
terrible.
thought that post-Damn, the movie actually makes the performances in the first half of the film even worse upon retroactively thinking about it. I think there's absolutely no character built out or fleshed out at all. I think it's an interesting choice that Dakota Fanning seems to be our center of the film and the Up to the Dam, and even that seems to be a sort of excuse just to keep the film going on. I think Jesse Eisenberg is not even accepted as a character until after the Dam, and that's only an excuse for us to have a second half of the film in which the director all of a sudden decides to use as a choice to explore a sort of post-guilt consciousness in a way that just seems kind of boring, like Kirk says. An excuse, again, to keep the movie going, and there just is no point, as Kirk was saying. I think the murder scene is just a boring, almost like lame shock tactic there, just to give us sort of sense of conclusion as we approach the end of the film. And by the end of it, I was just bored. I was tired, and I just felt like I had wasted the previous 2 hours of doing something else at all. So that was Night Moves.
It's never wasted. It's never wasted for the 706.
Okay, yeah. If it wasn't for this podcast, I would probably throw wasted in that review. I think it's weird though, because Kelly Reichardt is, such a talent in Meek's Cutoff, and certain, from what I hear of certain women, but Meek's Cutoff especially, I think it's an amazing film. And then to see her do this, it's like,
I'm going to start pitching movies I know he likes and just see what happens, because then it's going to be so interesting.
Well, I told you ahead of time that I didn't like this film from the beginning of what I've seen.
Whatever
like 10
you
minutes.
saw. Okay, all right.
And I would have made a wise decision to shut off the laptop and close it down.
Connor did, the gun was loaded with a blank, and it was a cruel, mocking gesture, like something out of Come and See. He kicks me in the head and I fall in the mud. And Connor comes out looking like a savior, but he's got something behind his back, and I don't quite see it.
Well, you don't know. I mean, Tony, you did introduce this movie by saying the movie I can best compare it to is Before the Devil Knows You're Dead, which is the only movie that you recommended that I truly dislike.
And I did say when I originally pitched it, like, I kind of anticipated this. I'm like, this is a movie you could very well hate, so I can't be too exact.
But yeah, I mean, I agree with my two co-hosts, or my two co-reviewers. I found this movie kind of tedious. I didn't think that the negative space, the moments of contemplation really amounted to much, didn't make me think. And I was trying to figure out the whole movie. It kind of starts as, sort of the slow build of the thriller. Then it kind of turns into just a very sort of easy morality play about doing something wrong and feeling guilty about it. And this seems to be the psychology of Eisenberg as he, is trying to cover his ass from being caught, which is just, it's so boring. And what does that have anything to do with this? I mean, it's not, don't get me wrong, it's not boring. It's done very well. We laugh, we're like, oh, here we go. It's Dostoevsky time, it's supposed to be like Crime and Punishment, but I mean, honestly, if you read that book, that's a pretty original take on that concept. That's not just guilt. I mean, this is just the boring, he's guilty because he did this thing. And we never get anything more about the nature of the whole relationship to nature. It's like that stuff just disappears. There's nothing more to say about it. It's so interesting. It's just this kind of like just empty window dressing for this easy little thriller about three people conspire, one person, regrets the act, and then another kills another. I'm not sure what else was in this movie, So I want to give Tony a chance to explain, and maybe, are there themes that I'm missing? Is there something that I'm missing? Are there comments? I got something about this idea of this maybe kind of easy, this kind of easy environmentalism that may be kind of misguided. But
I think when we get all hung up on the relationship to nature and the environmentalism and all these ideas, I think that you're sort of barking up the wrong tree with this movie. That's not what it's about for me. Yeah. But I just want to ask, I know Kirk, was there anything in the first, I know this movie is very it's sort of split down the middle by this. It's the first half of the movie is they're working towards this thing. They do the thing, and then we see the aftermath, and it's split sort of in two in this way. I'm not sure if the bomb goes off exactly halfway through, or maybe a little later than that, but it's about halfway through the movie, so it's split into the two halves. Did anything in the first half were you vibing with it at all, or just the sort of the?
I was.
Okay, Anthony. Anything, Connor? Did you sort of see?
I honestly wasn't. I found from the very get go. I found the dialogue a bit frustrating.
Really? What? Oh, never mind. It's not.
No, I mean you can ask about specifics. Just that I'll tell you very specific. The first moment we see Dakota Fanning just talking about, and she's talking about. Oh, they're both sitting in the front of the car talking about, oh, we've come all this way. They're sort of bantering, it's both this empty banter about how far they've come.
Yeah.
And then she does this gesture where she says, she holds her fingers up. Of course, you can't see because I'm not on camera, but she holds her fingers out a certain length, then lengthens it, and lengthens it. We've come this far now with her fingers very far apart. Just felt like this obvious, Dakota, can you just do something with your hands to make the scene a little bit more interesting? Something that, it doesn't have to be anything that a human being would do, but just do something,
I do this all the time. Yeah. Direction I'm driving.
So it just felt like, and the other scene, I thought what ultimately it was
Now she's buying the fertilizer, dude.
a fairly
oh my God,
good dramatic
that seems
scene.
awesome.
A fertile dramatic scene. Haha. Was the scene where she's buying the fertilizer, but it just, to me, it felt like, I don't know, it just didn't. I can't completely explain why, but it just didn't.
To me, okay. I'll tell you my basic read. This is why I like this movie, and I know you can say obviously this has a lot of sort of the tropes and sort of things I like in movies. It does this sort of thing, much like Before the Devil Knows You're Dead. It's a certain specific thing that I'm just very into, just sort of the conspiring to do a thing, the thing goes wrong, and then the fallout from that.
Yeah.
And just a rigorous commitment to that. And that's something I'm extremely into. Like, I when that's done well, it scratches an itch for me like little else. So, and I think few things do it quite as well as this movie. But I think so for this movie for me, the first half, it's just the methodical build up to this act. And they don't force feed you any information. It's just the way it slowly builds and escalates, and we get just snatches of information here and there. He meets his friend, she meets her friend, they have to buy a boat. Why do they have to buy a boat? He gives them the fake IDs. No one says they're fake IDs right away, but we gather they are. That sort of thing, just this slow accretion of detail, and we'll see that they're doing something, and it's probably something illegal. And to me, that's very exciting to watch. I find that first half in particular just absolutely riveting, particularly when she buys the fertilizer. That to me is like my favorite scene. And just that's the first half for me. The second half, the fallout, that to me is like, I don't know, I mean, the whole movie is like it's taking this thing to its logical conclusion. This is a messy reality, it's a messy act, it's never as simple as you anticipate, etc.
Well,
but
logical non-conclusion, but yeah.
I mean, wait, what do you mean?
The movie ends abruptly with no.
Yeah, but like the
story
is
no
ended.
traditional.
There's
traditional
what
they
do
would
we
either
need?
be caught or turned in, or
Right,
he runs, or he
right.
crosses the border to Mexico or something.
I think the idea
Supposed
that
to
was
hide
an abrupt
away
ending.
and go somewhere where he's not seen. He's
Yeah,
lost
just traditional
completely.
storytelling.
And he goes
let's
to
admit.
a
Yeah.
box retailer
Yeah.
where the application literally will give away his identity.
Well, that's why he's looking at the application. He's realizing, oh shit! Like,
Right,
what am I
but
gonna
it's
do?
not its
like
logical
this-
conclusion.
It's
is
open-ended.
what
Yeah,
like
yeah.
this is him forever. He's forever in this moment of he will never be safe. He will never feel okay. This will change
But
the
should
rest
we
of his
care?
life.
Because they haven't laid down a character for us to like.
See, okay,
latch on
so
to.
again, like again, the specifics. There's not a movie. Okay.
You know what I mean? Like,
all right,
how
okay.
can you care about that character? I don't give 5 fucks. About
Okay,
it.
let me. Jesus. Okay. Circle back to what I was saying is this. The specifics are in the plans they make, in the actions they take, etc. But the specifics of who these people are at the beginning, at the very least, and why they're doing what they're doing, these things are sort of irrelevant to the movie. It's sort of this methodical, something is built, something happens, and then this is what stems from that. And to me, it's a movie about essentially, like, how committed are you to this ideology that you believe? These are 3 people that, let's say they're very committed, and they're all kind of in it. They all sort of have their own angle on it. Eisenberg's kind of the most serious about it, and and you say we know nothing about his character. I think the character work is like, they don't give you much. They don't give you like his background or anything, but I don't want that. I don't want that information. We could just...
Why not?
Because, like, why do we need it? It's like, it's not relevant to this plot. I'm interested in them building this thing.
And we get a small hint, though, of Dakota Fanning's character's backstory.
I don't feel
Yeah,
like he
yeah.
has anything to lose, so I don't really care. Like, he's gonna
He
live
doesn't
on his
have
own in the
anything to
woods.
lose.
Like there's no
There's no
girlfriend.
substance.
There's
family,
there's no like empathy with the idea of
It's
like,
not like
I
Speed.
did a bad thing.
You know
and-
what? In Speed, right? Or not Speed, in Heat,
Yeah.
right? He has the girl. He's trying to navigate being with her and also pulling off this final heist. And
Right,
ultimately, it's his downfall.
Yeah.
Is trying to be part of both worlds. But to me, he's like, he's in no world. He's in. I don't know.
Well, this is sort of this is sort of his whole existence is this radical
Yeah.
environmentalism. I mean, I think the thing for me is like there's an innate sort of drama and something I can empathize with in the idea of like, I did this thing, I don't want to get caught. Like, I think that's like, I don't know, to me that's a fairly resonant, fairly powerful, basic idea and basic fear. If you don't have that or you don't empathize with that, I get it. Like,
Yeah.
I can't like. To me, it connects on
No, I
sort
can
of that
understand
level.
it. I don't empathize with it. I can sympathize, but not empathize.
Right,
So I can
you
see
don't-
that it's objectively a shitty situation, but I don't care. You know?
Right. It's yeah. What?
So yeah, I mean, just to that, I was trying to think why. I mean, because as I said, it didn't feel interesting to me. The plot of agonizing over the fact that you've done this thing, and the oddity, the strangeness of coming in, people are talking about the crime you did. I've seen that done very well, and I know that I can connect to that. But I didn't connect to it in this movie. I think partially because for the reason that Kirk mentioned, it's like, did they really not? Were they really not ready for this? The fact that like they detonated a bomb and blew up a dam, and that it wouldn't hurt anyone. I really just don't believe that.
But he even says that when he's in the car with Dakota Fanning. Like, what else did you expect?
Yeah, no, I
And
realize he says that, but then that's literally what the plot depends on, is that someone would feel bad about that, right?
Yeah, but she's supposed to be seen as sort of a babe in the woods. She's the naive one.
I understand that. Fair enough. But also, I was thinking about, a lot of these things where things go wrong. It's where we're given, I don't know. It's just like where we actually see it go wrong while it's happening, and that does happen to an extent. But I don't know. It just didn't feel like. I don't know. It just didn't. I don't know. It didn't connect to me. I think that it was possible. They could have done this sequence in a certain way that there would have been pathos to that. But I feel like the way the movie was written, it just didn't feel like it had any impact.
Well, I mean, it's obvious that the one emotional then character that, or at least Kirk and I, or maybe you would agree too, Connor, would say that this movie seems to have is actually, and however weak it may be, is, I can't remember any of the names, Dakota Fanning's character,
yeah,
because she's the only person in the beginning, and again, it's sort of the trope of the naive person going into some cause that you believe you have, because she's educated. She has her dad's money. It says
she did her one college class.
She's able
before
to
she dropped out. Yeah,
she's able to basically supply the money, and she thinks that like she's so committed to this cause that she wants to be up close and personal. But then what's funny is as it switches to Jesse Eisenberg's character, we lose her for quite a good amount of time, or what feels like quite a good amount of time because of the film's deliberately slow pace.
I don't think she's ever like the protagonist, though. They just happen to be together. I think from the beginning.
I would disagree. I think she is the protagonist
based on
for the first hour.
What does she do?
She's constantly in the center of the frame. She's constantly our scene of action. And Jesse Eisenberg hardly really speaks outside of a bodily emotion until the second half. And in the first half leading up to the dam, everything that is there through her eyes as a way
I think it's clear that he's in charge. I think it's clear he's the one.
Yeah, he may
like,
be in charge, but
happen.
I don't think he's our protagonist in that first half. I don't even think he becomes it until really after that truck scene when they're talking. That's to me when it becomes Jesse Eisenberg's character.
Not quite on the same. I don't quite follow, or I'm not quite on the same page.
Well, I think you could say that he has less character. We never hear about his background.
But like just the thing with
he doesn't have like there's no character description. How do I describe that character, Tony? Like how do I describe the character of Jesse Eisenberg in that movie? And the Marine, ex-Marine,
he's sort of a joyless. He's committed to his cause.
Intellectual.
He's sort of
talks about what he believes in. Hardly ever. He has that one scene with the deer. It's just
I wouldn't want them to talk about it.
Well, we get that.
It's just window dressing.
We get this like interesting moment. I actually think kind of early on when they're at like that like film screening for the environmental film, and it's interesting because they say the impact is not going to happen in these big like plans. I'm tired of big plans. It's all about small plans. And the film, it's not going to be an environmental movie, right? So it's what Tony's saying. But what's weird though is we have no real like ramifications of what their plan is even going to entail after this dam really hits.
What do you mean in terms of the river, or in terms of?
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Well, I was
going to say in terms of like the morality of what Connor was saying earlier is we get the idea of an explosion, but like what's next? And really, what's the commitment here, I feel like? And it seems to be kind of just swept aside as the film kind of takes hold.
I don't think they had a grand plan. I mean, it isn't straight.
Well,
this was the big plan.
I'm not thinking of like that in the sense. I'm thinking of it's about small plan, right? And this is just the small plan. But in my head, I see this happen. I don't know how better to possibly word it. So maybe you have to come back. Yeah, no, come back. I'll figure out a way to say it.
Well, I mean, I was going to say that I think the movie's I think the movie at that moment is almost calling out our main characters, that rather than making small hard decisions like say family, the farmer, who seems like he makes a lot of small, hard decisions, been working forever to build a sustainable farm, the co-op, I mean, the owner of the co-op. These three are taking this kind of rash, easy action, or not easy action,
right.
but the theater, right? So that is a theme of the movie. So it's basically, I think, from the very beginning, that make small plans, I think, is kind of it's a taking to task of the movie in general, in its actual characters who actually do say things. It's taking to task, our three main characters. Sorry.
I mean, I see it as more of it's sort of like, if this is it's like what the guy says when he kicks him out of his co-op. He says, like, you do what you have to do, but, don't bring us down. Or just the idea of, like, be ready for this. Like, this is what's coming. You have to know that, and you have to be okay with that.
Sorry, what is this you're describing?
There's a scene where the guy pulls him aside. To me, in this purely subjective level, just the scenes like that, where the guy calls him over and talks to him and he has to leave. Like, to me, there's such an electricity there. And, like, on the phone calls and stuff, and I don't know, I'm just so wrapped by that stuff. And I guess maybe that's just a subjective, thematic thing, but when he calls him over, and he says, hey, like, people are talking, and et cetera, when he kicks him off, but he says, like, you do whatever you gotta do, but you can't, don't bring us down. We've spent years building this.
Yeah.
And just, to me, again, the part of the thematic thing of the movie is, like, this is what's coming. This is what that involves. These are the repercussions. And you have to just be aware of that. And if you're okay with that, that's what it is.
I think the idea, the general sentiment that I share with Connor, though, and I think with Anthony, but I don't know if I think so, would be that these themes, though very enticing, and I love the idea. Like if you said, you described maybe the movie to me in terms of how you kind of talked about it, how it's like a slow, methodical build up to an act, an illegal act, and then facing the consequences, trying to decide where we are, the criminality of it all, and how do I reconcile my new path with my former life. But it's just not implemented well, I don't think. Like that, you said that's just electrifying, like those types of themes. Those themes resonate.
I meant
with me,
just the interactions with the characters.
Yeah, but like that idea of someone having to conceal guilt is very appealing to me. But I think, like I said, I just didn't give a fuck about Jesse Eisenberg's character, and I also think that it was kind of like a buzzkill when the guy was like, I understand why they said it, but just from kind of like from a viewer, like this would be something that maybe a reviewer would say is good because it's like the anticlimax. But as someone who invested like an hour and 10 minutes, hour into the first half of the movie, for the next scene to be him overhearing people talking about the dam at breakfast, and the guy saying, "Oh, they should have done 12, 100. This makes no difference." It's like, well, why did I even care?
That's the whole thing. It's that's the whole thematic thing.
Yeah,
he's like realizing like how small it ultimately is.
I know, but
it's an important thematic thing.
I guess we were led on to believe that there would be some consequence to their actions, aside from inadvertently killing somebody. Like, you know what I mean?
I really disagree. That would not.
Can I finish? I really believe like when they're talking about the golf courses. There's 29 golf courses in this high plains desert area. Like, what we're gonna really stick it to those Portland snobs, and we're gonna really turn this around, and people are gonna start talking about it. And then the people that are most likely to talk about it are lamenting its inadequacy. And I'm just like, that's kind of thematic in that it's
Do you think it's like
it's helplessness, but at the same time, as a viewer, I want that suspense to not just be complete. I don't want to get a nerve block to my erect cock. Like that's what it felt like. And like even if they're saying, well, it's for the we're making a point about environmentalism in the 21st century, but it's like, well, I invested my energy in the first half of the movie, and now you just left me kind of hanging, and all I have left is like to try to
to try to relate to this character who I didn't think I had to relate to necessarily, because I thought it would be more about kind of the context, but now it's gone very intrapsychic, and now we're getting inside his head, and we weren't even near his head in the first half. And
I mean, that to me felt just very real. Like, they put all this time and all this effort and all these months of planning and all this money into this action, but ultimately, like, this system is too big for something like that to really meaningfully, that's underlined by the other things we talked about, the small actions and the other things said. I'm not saying, obviously you get that, I'm not saying that, but to me it felt very of the piece, and that to me again is like, that's like I think that's a good moment. I don't know, I get like, I'm like, oh, like I feel for him, like I feel for him in that moment when he realizes that all this stuff he went through, this could destroy his life, this could ruin his life, and it was for nothing. And he's sitting at that table, and then he may have killed someone. Like that to me is like, I don't know, I just feel that. I'm like, holy shit, like, I don't know, on a visceral level. Stone Cold silence.
I don't know. It's just
I'm trying to think.
Do you understand what I mean? Do you get why I like that?
Absolutely.
This is I realize this is the structure. This is the same exact structure, the same exact defense you have of Simon Killer and Before the Devil Knows You're Dead.
What do you mean?
The visceral element.
Oh my god, dude! Come on, like can I not like the visceral elements?
No.
Like,
I mean, I get it.
Who gives a shit?
It's the
dude?
thing you're into. It's just, it just doesn't connect emotionally then for like Kirk and I.
That's fine. I don't understand why I'm being mocked for feeling a movie. I'm just explaining what I'm engaging with, and I realize
I'm trying to figure out why, right? If there's a gap, if there's a gap in our experience, why, what, and why was it? And I don't know. So we can just say, let's write off.
Like me knowing that he worked at a preschool for 3 years does nothing. That doesn't do anything for me. I don't give a shit. Like,
how about like someone he cares about in his life? Let's meet
I don't want that.
What about?
You think Heat would have been a better movie if we hadn't seen the love?
This isn't Heat though. That's a totally different thing.
But the people
not every movie should be Heat.
But the people he works with at the co-op, for instance, or like we could have seen them maybe in the
he's
first
sort of
half
isolated.
Of
he's put all of himself into this thing.
Okay, let's see him isolated in the beginning. I don't know. It's just.
But he is. It's immediately.
I don't understand why this. You say this movie works better because there are no attachments.
I like that. Okay.
Try to flesh that.
Okay. I like that as this movie begins. It's totally just. There's no frills. This is the systematic, methodical. This is how this thing happens. Mm-hmm. Right. This is how it happens. That's what I like. There's something very appealing, like aesthetically about that. Yeah. It's like a smooth object, at least for the first half. Right. The second half sort of becomes a different thing. Mm-hmm. But I like that. I think that's a cool thing. If we had scenes where he's talking to his mom or whatever, that would take away from that for me. That would take away from that, aesthetic like perfection for me. Mm-hmm. I understand what you're saying, but I guess that doesn't factor into it at all for me. But anyway,
wouldn't it place it more in reality though? Like we'd actually because we interact as humans. We don't just kind of stare off into the distance, and we don't hear him talk.
Sometimes we do that. I don't understand why him talking more makes it more realistic.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just you're very interested in the real elements of it, and I'm saying that would make it a little bit more realistic. Is to see him interacting with other people. If you're
planning a terrorist attack, you're probably going to keep some distance from your family for a while to protect them. Yeah. I don't know. I think that makes sense. But I understand how, on an emotional level, that might not be satisfying.
You don't think terrorists have families?
I don't think they talk to them the day before necessarily, and they're probably trying to protect them. I don't know. Partners, depends on the person, I guess. But I don't know. Anyway, guys, I know where it's getting in, but why don't we just go around? We're 33 minutes in, and I'm on the ground. I'm bleeding out, and it's one last.
The coup de grace.
Yeah, so Kirk, you come up first.
No, I will say that the first half of this movie, I actually did. I did
sort
kind of dig. Yeah, it's like that fertilizer scene. The kind of trying to figure out what it was about. I'm not really familiar with eco-terrorism, to be frank. I mean, is it
neither am I.
Highly prevalent, or is this just a made-up thing?
There's a couple big cases. Yeah.
Okay. Quite a big in Oregon.
So, Anthony, nothing, no love for the.
I wasn't.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I'm just saying the soundtrack I kind of liked. At the end, it was almost like I was dying in Bed Bath and Beyond or something. It was horrible. But,
Okay.
I don't know. It was
Great
like the
phrase.
South Park scene where the guy's wearing Stan's grandpa is wearing earphones, listening to Enya all day, and he's like, "This is what being old is like," and then that's what the music reminded me of at the end.
Okay.
Anyways, I thought it was shot brilliantly, like just kind of the frame to frame. I thought there was some really good shots, especially when they're going down the river. But
I like that. Yeah.
So, but yeah, this movie just didn't work for me. So.
All right. Fair enough.
So I
Anthony,
just
no
wanted to
love.
throw that out there, and
Yeah,
that I did
yeah.
like certain elements of it.
No love for the fertilizer scene, Anthony.
No.
My favorite scene.
I am curious, though. We never got a chance to talk about Kirk's reaction to the possible murder scene. So that maybe have to be on the commentary track for Kirk. So.
What do you mean?
Oh, the
Because
commentary
you complained
track.
about
yeah.
that, but we'll
We're
flesh it
recording
out.
We
that.
should rewatch it and then live comment.
Yeah.
Live
That's what
tweet.
we should do. That's the bonus bit. I just called it.
And as for me, I don't see. I can agree with Kirk that there's beautiful. It's very consistently and well shot. It's beautiful shots. I just wish it would give me something to think about. I don't know. And I understand Tony's point that it's visceral, that it's more of a it's a film exercise. Or sorry, not an exercise. That makes it kind of sound a bit it's a bit derogatory, I think, but it's an attempt to create suspense, right? For some reason, it just didn't for me. It just didn't do it for me, and I wasn't in love with the writing either. So yeah, I do have to say no. But I have to hand it to Tony for withstanding our onslaught.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
no.
not easy.
I feel bad because I feel like I was on the defensive too much. Like I feel like there's probably more I had to say about this movie, but I was too busy, whacking off hockey pucks to really dive in. That's my fault. I should have done a better job presenting it, or perhaps done more preparation.
Well, it's hard to do.
More
yeah.
about the off the cuff reactions, which sometimes results in episodes like this.
Yeah.
So anyway, it is what it is. I think you guys were mostly fair, and I can respect that. You just didn't vibe with it, so that's okay. And so why don't we suggest the next movie and go around?
Connor.
Me? You don't want to go, Kirk?
I can go. Yeah. So I'm gonna throw out this movie that actually I watched when I was living in Virginia, anticipating going to NYU, moving to New York, and it really stuck with me for one reason or another. Probably for just its style, and that's King of New York with Christopher Walken. Who else is in this? There's quite a few people you'll know. Lawrence Fishburne, Wesley Snipes.
Wow.
What's his name? Teeth guy. Steve Buscemi.
He's more the eyes guy to me.
And then David Caruso is like the
It's
second
funny.
lead. But
It's funny you bring up King of New York because we might actually getting a guest appearance from Christopher Walken soon. So that would be a good episode for him to come on.
yeah, that would be interesting. But no, it's a movie about Christopher Walken plays like a gang lord, like this kind of towering figure, very intimidating. Just gets out of prison, trying to get everybody in line again. And then it's kind of a cat and mouse game with the cops, but you can see that the corruption is very. It's almost reminds me a little bit of like the other side of the table of what's Serpico. So, but with kind of like Blade Runner-ish esque elements, and it's almost like neo, retro. I don't know, futuristic, retro futuristic. No
Yeah,
neo.
when's this
Take away the
from?
neo. What?
When's this from?
1990. So it's almost like a depiction of like a dystopic New York City.
Huh.
But maybe at the time, it's probably a little bit accurate with higher crime rates and everything, and crack epidemic. So, anyways, that's my take.
Anthony,
It's
you're
my-
going?
You want me to go first? It doesn't matter.
You have your movie?
Sure.
Go ahead.
I'm just going to nominate 1950s In a Heart of a Lonely Place. It stars Humphrey Bogart as a screenwriter who begins a relationship with a young woman next door who all of a sudden begins to suspect him of murder. with the former one-night stand he had. And the movie basically investigates whether their sort of new floundering relationship could withstand the scrutiny of the cops investigating him, and whether he's guilty or not. It's directed by Nicholas Ray, famously of Johnny Guitar and Rebel Without a Cause. It's, I think it'd be interesting for Kirk because, Humphrey Bogart's considered the film that popularly introduced naturalism to acting in big Hollywood productions. I think it'd be interesting to Connor because it sort of became the go-to film for many of his 70s favorites. And so I think it'd be interesting to watch.
What's the name of the movie?
In a Heart of a Lonely Place.
In a Heart of a Lonely Place. Okay. Well, hear that, ladies? That's what you call an Anthony movie. As for my movie, I was down to 2. I made Tony pick between whether he wants a classic or he wants it fresh. And he picked fresh. So I won't tell you what my classic pick was, but I'll give you my fresh pick. The movie is called Day Night, Day Night. It's from 2006. Sort of an experimental thriller. The premise is interesting. It's 2 days and 2 nights in the life of a suicide bomber. So I thought it was
all right, pack it in, folks. It's nice knowing you.
So the reason I picked it, especially after, because I knew this movie was about, it was about eco-terrorism. I was thinking about this movie, made me think about this movie again. It is a thriller. It's very much, I think you'll find that it's related in form and themes to this movie we just watched, to Night Moves. It's sort of an examination of why someone would do such an act of suicide bombing. But it plays its cards very close to the chest. There are no expository monologues, there's nothing like that. It's very minimal and very, very, very visceral. One of the most visceral movies I've ever seen. So I kind of think this is very much a Tony movie. I'm not sure how much you other two would, but I think it could be a kind of a vindication of the form that Tony likes so much.
This is so complicated because, obviously, this is the most appealing movie. But it's also I know Anthony will smug little smile when I pick it, but I also know Kirk will hate watching it. So it's all these
care about their
elements
smug smiles? Pick
it's
what
just
your
so
heart
I
says.
don't know. But what's
rebuttals,
the
right?
rebuttal?
Well, I think... Oh, do you want to go first?
No, it's okay.
Go ahead, Anthony.
Well, I think I detailed why Kirk and Connor might find mine interesting. Connor's movie sounds like it's a great capital F film.
What does that mean?
Watch. I don't know. Just wanted to throw out a little quip.
Capital F is in bad?
As in a moviegoer's movie.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
It's
Sorry.
of like the academic's choice.
Not really.
No?
I'd say it's
Okay.
not. I'd say it's like it's a weird, it's an experimental movie. It's not academic.
Is it an English film? Or,
No. It's American. Takes place in New York City.
Okay. Now I'm intrigued. I have no. I've never even heard of it, so I have really no rebuttal for him. I'm actually, though, I think most interested in Kirk's movie. Not just because Christopher Walken may be a guest, but I think Kirk I think just sounds interesting. It's a type of movie I don't know if he has praised in the past, but I feel like I've heard him talk about it before. I'm just kind of curious what this type of movie he's talking about.
Tony,
he's
what are you
excited about.
You doing research over there?
No, I'm not doing that.
Are you really?
No, I'm not doing anything.
I did not
Checking those
research
I didn't do
IMDb
I'm not doing
scores.
shit, dude. I'm not looking up anything.
Okay, well on that note, yeah.
Check your history. All right, fair enough. So, just making sure I know what these movies are called. It's one with what was yours, Anthony? A Shart on a Lonely Face. It's a new Fiverr campaign by PewDiePie. It's gonna really kind of boost the ad revenue on YouTube right now.
Yeah.
Get the partners all real excited. We know we really care about you, Ethan, and whatever what's Layla? What's her name?
Ela.
Ethan and Ela. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice
H3H3,
moves,
the
night
YouTube.
moves. Yeah, shout out right
Yeah.
there. He's got you 500,000 followers. And then Connor's Dano's Date Night.
Dano's Date Night.
Dano
I would
going
love
with
that movie.
Daniel
so
St. Louis
good.
on his 60th birthday. They go to a nice little Upper West
The
Side
night dinner with Andre
patisserie.
sort of thing.
What?
That would rule.
That would be so good.
So, anyways, I think my movie is good. I probably would like your movie more than you think, Connor, and I'm sure I would end up liking the ideal of naturalism is appealing to me in older films where I can feel so kind of constructed in a way. So for me, but yeah, my movie's hyper violent. It's almost abrasive in that sense. So, but it's interesting to see Christopher Walken in a somewhat different role, so it's kind of cool, and he's very New York. It's a very New York movie, but
Cool.
Yeah.
I haven't seen either of your movies.
Yeah, I haven't seen any
I'm
of these.
struggling to think of
You haven't seen
something
any of
to
ours?
say
No, I've seen
to it, to both. I mean, I think you have you have sort of different time periods. You have
Nice range.
you have old '90s, and then kind of 2000s. I'll just say about my movie. Sorry, I made it sound as if it's when I said an exploration. I mean that it's there's stuff there to look at, but it's really it's not a movie that preaches. It's not a movie that has a whole lot to say on the surface. It's very much an exercise in sort of in visceral filmmaking, I'd say. So,
All right. Well, for Connor's movie, as good as it it definitely appeals to me. I definitely will check it out at some point, but trying to keep us all off the watch list. I think after this movie we should wait a couple of months before diving into Day Nights. Anthony's movie sounds like a chore. Get out with Kirk's. Also, not least because I know Walken will be very upset, very agitated if we watch anything other than that movie.
yeah.
When he shows
I'll
up.
make a call. I'll see if he's available. He was spotted in an airport a little bit back. If you were on Reddit, he wasn't looking too well. But hopefully
He was telling people to listen.
Yeah,
That's all he kept saying.
He said something about United Airlines. He didn't want to be removed from the plane, soldering iron, and they let him stay. But you know what happens after that. So maybe he can give us some insight.
All right, guys. So in other 706 news, I'm not sure what format the show will take in the future, but I will be moving soon, so we may have to find some sort of Skype situation. I'm not sure how.
Sorry.
As Connor dropped.
That's,
No,
that's
I
a
was.
fact.
No, I
it's
didn't.
just
I didn't.
dropping things.
I didn't
Yeah,
know.
it's
I didn't know
tone
about
of the
this.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll try to figure something out. I know other podcasts do that, so we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I don't think this will be the last episode because 26
This will
episodes
not be the last episode.
is
Absolutely not.
a bad. It's an unlucky number. We
I
want
like
to join
the
this
number
27
Anything
club.
else? I know Devin Faraci, you're looking for a new podcast.
Yeah.
We'd love to have you. We're not moralists here.
We'll take Milo Yiannopoulos if you're looking for work. Bill Cosby. So
Richard Spencer.
you know what?
yeah,
They should
all
start their
those-
own. Those dudes. Oh, that'd be so good.
Yeah, undesirable.
But anyway, guys, thanks for listening, and
Thank you.
I'll have what she's had.
do yourself a favor and watch Night Moves. Have a good night.